I'm going to show you how I built an enterprise-grade booking system in less than 48 hours, something that would have taken me probably close to 6 months previously by the factor in building every single avenue of this from scratch. How I did this is I took tried and tested tools that handle a bunch of different things I need to build in the app that are already available to me, and I just paid a monthly fee so that that's all taken care of. This includes authentication, our database, and our calendar scheduling. Without further ado, I just want to jump straight into it because this is pretty wild. Like, this is a feature I'm working on for a client that literally I got done in less than 2 days. So what we wanted to do, basically just be able to book calendar calls, but before that we need to pre-qualify the leads with a form. This is something that Calendly and tools like Calendly don't give you out of the box. And a lot of the things we need here are being able to manage users, organization, being able to have secure database entries, being able to, sync to all these different various calendar types, being able to book events, being able to create booking links, being able to pre-qualify anybody that comes to book these links, be able to lead score them. All this stuff that on paper, if you wrote it down a roadmap, it would take you so fucking long. But a combination of using AI and open source tooling and these existing tools means that you can go very fast and only focus on building the 20% of what matters, which is solving your business problem, and having the other 80% of your entire app or infrastructure taken care of by all these other tools stitched and integrated together. So let's jump into it. So what we have here essentially is a calendar application that lets you basically set up lead qualification, but also handle multi-tenancy, which is a very important thing. So if you're a founder and you're looking to build a SaaS app, chances are you want to be able to manage users and organizations very easily so that you can onboard them very easily. Now you could go down the route of having your entire team build out authentication infrastructure and all this, but there's actually no need when there's tools that exist such as Clerk or WorkOS. So the one I went with today is Clerk. So Clerk is really nice. It gives you a really good user management, organization management, and it handles all the authentication flows out of the box that you set up: email, phone, username, password, passkeys, user models, all this kind of stuff. SSO connections, so you can hook into Google, Facebook, whatever. You can even connect to people's wallets. But the thing here is all I got to do is set this up on their system, change a few lines of code, and then load it into my app, and I'm basically good to go with their preloaded components that let me authenticate, handle user signups and everything out of the box. And I don't need to manage this, which is really fucking good because this takes a lot of the burden off what you would have otherwise had to do if you handle it yourself. Picture this: you could spend 1 to 2 months building all this yourself and then having to handle all the bugs that come with that. Or you could pay a tool such as Clerk, or alternatively, there's others such as WorkOS, which basically just handle authentication in a few lines of code. So again, in our case, we went to Clerk. And again, it's more than authentication, it's complete user management. And the thing that I want to get across here is, okay, we're building a calendar, and then basically we're building Calendly, but it's better for what we need for my client use case. But we don't want to handle all the other shit that we need to do to get that running. So we're going to use these smart tool choices. So in our case, we're going to run with Clerk. Clerk is great, handles sign-in, handles all this extra stuff, authentication, organizations, even billing. When we want to actually start charging to our users, we can do billing in here. But anyway, that defeats the point. I just want to get across that it's important when you're building tools to not take the engineering approach where you think you have to be this hero who has to build everything. Actually, the more intelligent option is for you to actually choose tried and tested tools that already exist that cost a fraction of what it would take of your hourly time. Imagine you're an engineer who charges anywhere from $50 to $100 an hour. And if you're spending all that time building an authentication system, why would you not just pay $25 a month instead to have that handled for you? It just makes no sense not to, right? Because then you can just focus on getting to solving what the business problem is. So we went with Clerk in this case. And as you can see here, literally, if I go back to basically just our URL here, I can come in, launch. Okay, I'm actually signed in already. So let me sign out. So as you can see, all this stuff is provided from Clerk out of the box. I just stitch it in and I'm able to handle sign in and sign up. In our case, we're going to sign up. So we are going to sign in with Aura. Yeah, sign in here, sign up. I've actually already signed up, so I'm just logging back in. But once we get in, then we can create our organization. If we're not part of an organization, it prompts us to create one, which is something I didn't even have to build in. It was all done for me. So boom, we're in. So Clerk handles this. Now we're at you see here, it's asking to sync your availability in your calendar. What I'm leveraging here is actually not even infrastructure I set up. I was going to set up all the connect to Google, connect to Outlook, connect to iCloud infrastructure. And then I would have to handle that for Teams, for workspaces and all this. And there was so much custom code I had to write just to connect to people's calendars and then keep that in sync so that when they get calendar bookings, Those all need to get pulled in, which honestly was fucking mind-blowingly bullshit to have to work through. So then I said, you know what? Let me think through this smarter. Before I start building all this, let me actually do some research. So what I found was a couple of competitors and vendors that I could like explore. So one of which I went look at cal.com. But here's the thing. It's important when you're trying these tools to actually like validate the pricing. And cal.com's pricing was a little bit kind of crazy for what we were trying to build. As you can see here, this looks all right, but we want to use their platform API. Starts at $299 per month for up to 500 bookings a month. What we're trying to do is a multi-tenant system that handles many bookings and pre-qualifies. We would blow up this very fast with the level of customers we want to get on here. And if you look at platform scale, $2.5K per month, it's not really going to cut it for 500 bookings a month. So they're off the track. Instead, we landed on Nylas, which actually handles everything we want and more. And it was super straightforward to integrate, which is the interesting thing, right? So like what would have taken me probably 1 to 2 months to like figure out and build all this calendar syncing engine stuff, I didn't have to anymore. I could just find a tool like this. I could go to Nylas. They have really good docs and they provide everything we need, which is calendar and scheduler booking, which is what we want to do to basically replicate Calendly, but add more of like a lead flow thing on top. That's like just like 2 of the vendors. So we talked about Clerk for authentication. We talked about this. Now, what about like our actual like database structure and everything? Because we're building a multi-tenant app, we want to be able to basically handle all that organization, but have all the data tied to that. And what's really nice, because we chose to go with Clerk, is it actually has a Supabase integration out of the box, which was really, really nice because Clerk lets you basically hook up the Supabase integration automatically, and then you can set up RLS policies. And these RLS policies are key because what this means is you can basically, anytime a user logs in, they basically have a token. And anytime that the user needs to query data tied to their user or their organization, we can basically check the token and be like, okay, what's the user ID? What's the organization ID? Does all this data match this organization or this user? Okay, they can pull it in. That's key because now we don't have to worry about like me as an engineer or another engineer coming on board fucking up that data, which is really, really important because what we get here is basically we get our authentication handled, we get our database level handled, but we also have this tight integration between Clerk and Supabase now so that the data is secure and it's tied to the user who queried it. So we no longer need to like worry about like basically needing to remember, oh my God, I got to remember to like make sure that the data I query is tied to a specific organization. So like this is pretty sick because as a founder or as an engineer, as you can imagine, you just want to get your product up and you don't want to have to worry about all the security bullshit, all the user management bullshit, because that's just like boilerplate that like every SaaS application needs. So why would you reinvent the wheel when you can just use tools that exist that do this for you? Basically, just getting back to it, our tool here is like we have Clerk logging in for authentication and we have Supabase connected and everything gets created. So as what I'm going to do now is actually sync my calendar and I'm going to leverage Nylas. So I'll sync it up, comes to Nylas, connect with Google, click this, boom, we can connect this, and okay, it's going to connect up. It's going to redirect in a second. Now we've done our onboarding and we can land in on our scheduler. So now what we want to do next is be able to create a booking link. The whole flow of this application, just to like go back to it, is we want to be able to create booking links, but we want to capture pre-qualification data of the person who would be booking with us so that we can have that data before they make the booking. Calendly doesn't give you this out of the box. So we have to build it ourselves, which is why we're going down this custom route. But everything I showed you so far was pretty much handled, bar the UI. Obviously I built some of this, but the authentication, the database, the calendar integration, all tied together. And then once that calendar integration was saved, it was stored in Supabase for my user. So like, even if I theoretically went in, I have a Nylas connection here created, which basically has an issued grant, blah, 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 all this, and tied to my user, which is awesome. Now I will delete this so nobody can use that grant later, but everything is all connected. And like I did very little stitching to get that up and running. It was literally the authentication flow put in. Most of that was Clerk. Then the calendar booking thing, I built a small UI, but what I actually did was point to the Nylas APIs. Pointed to the Nylas APIs, got the data back, saved that grant on the database, and now I have this. And now what I can do from here is I can start creating booking events. So you see a nice little UI here. Most of this was like, I leveraged an LLM to help me auto-generate most of this. But the APIs and stuff, they're all available. The docs are all there. So what we can do now is we can basically create a booking event. So you can imagine you sign up, create your organization, you're in, boom. Then you sync your calendar. Easy as that. And I did that in less than maybe 4 hours, realistically, of tightening integrations. Then now we can set our business hours, which let us like choose if we're going to make a booking link, we're going to tie it to the business hours of me. So here we go. It's going to come in here. I'm going to be like, okay, what do I do? So mobile app consulting is one. Might take me like an hour, right? So I'm going to create a custom booking link. Going to go through here. So yeah, primary organizer is me. All my working hours already pull in from what I basically auto flagged at the start. Days in the future, all this. Now I can actually add some pre-qualification data, which is the whole point we're building this. Not because we couldn't run a Calendly, because we want to do some like intelligent lead scoring here. Again, able to generate all of this with AI. It was fucking crazy how fast you can go. What is your budget? Just simple as that. What is your budget? They can enter that in text. We keep it simple. Funny enough, there's a pre-booking link. Create this, and then boom, a booking link is created. We're pointing to the Nylas APIs. It's created on our system. It's tied to our organization. It's stored here. Only users who log in will be able to see this because we chose to go with Clerk, and we have a Clerk to Supabase integration, which keeps the data secure. So like, I didn't even have to worry about all that shit. All I gotta do is be like, create this against this user and it's done. What's awesome here is now we have a booking link that I can share that is public, and I can enter in data. So I can just enter in like, now I'm not gonna actually use my real phone number here so people don't call me, but I can enter things like an email address here. Oh, sorry, my name. Cool. And what's your budget? Yeah, we're gonna say like 10K. Okay, cool. Invalid phone number. Oh, interesting. Let's try this one. Okay, cool. So we have some pre-phone validation as well. But what I'm showing you right now, interestingly enough, you're seeing this booking form. I prototyped this in AI in like less than 2 hours. And how I did it was strategically taking the Nylas API docs, telling it how we're going to populate this data, but not going too far enough to the point where it's like, hey, it's going to be super tight to Nylas. We can actually plug out the APIs later and plug something in later on. And I'll show you how I got to that. But just giving you through the flow, like you can see here, this is a pretty sick flow. All of this I was able to generate leveraging AI and iterating within basically just inside in V0. So yeah, boom, booked. It's in here. We got a booking form. It's completed, done. Now, confirmation email sent to Gardezi1993@gmail.com, which is my email address. Now, I can come in here and I can see, look, it's already added to my calendar. So like, I built this in under 48 hours and I use it by basically using existing tools, using existing platforms, stitching it together and creating an flow. The custom part of this element realistically was a pre-qualification form. Wasn't a whole lot of rocket science, but we are essentially able to clone an application like Calendly in less than 48 hours, which is kind of fucking crazy because thinking of how you could do that in the past, not as straightforward because you would have had to handle the scheduling. And it's like, it's not even the fact that I did it with AI. I did it intelligently by choosing infrastructure that already exists. So choosing tools, whether open source or paid, that handle the infrastructure for me. And then leveraging AI API docs, but then leveraging AI LLMs to basically stitch it all together and get it up and running fast. That is the approach. And sure, you'll run into tweaks. Sure, you'll run into errors. But the thing is, you can iterate on those because the feedback loop is so fast that you can catch these and move through this pretty fucking fast. So all this you're seeing, again, I prototyped. And I'll show you how I did that. So like, you don't even have to be an engineer to prototype this UI. And that's one thing I want to get it clear is, a lot of these elements like is pretty much just stitching together. And I did this without like fully putting on my engineering hat. I put on my product hat and I said, hey, I'm building this tool. I want to use this. Help me stitch it together. Now, fair enough. I used a tool like Cursor and Cloud Code to help write the code, but I didn't write a whole lot of code myself. I just used a lot of like API docs and stitching together. So actually to run through like how I would prototype the UI, we can come with a tool called v0.dev. So if you come to v0.dev, you land somewhere like here. And here's where you can like basically prototype whatever tool you want, which is really cool. Now there's other ones like Lovable and stuff, but the reason I choose v0 is because it's basically a set of UI components that you can use in your app to like make it look stylish and so forth. You can iterate on it and you can create a session. And what I did is I created a session that was able to basically replicate what you see in my booking form I have here. And obviously the theme is different because it's loading my theme in for my app, but I was able to iterate here pretty extensively, all within chat, and get to a point where I had something I was interested in. And like, I actually took some inspiration from other tools that exist out there, pasted in some designs, talked through my problem, but I was basically being like, hey, we want to build a calendar app. And this is my thought process. I want to build a calendar app. I want to have pre-qualification data first. I want to capture the phone number, I want to capture the email, and then optional dynamic fields. We want to block filling out the calendar, and then, and only once we fill in the data, will we open and unlock the calendar. And then once we pick a calendar slot, we want to be able to pick a time slot. And then we want to be able to confirm that time slot. And like stitching it all together, I was like, okay, this is like a cool UX. But what about like the data structure I need to send in? And this is where I started like really getting the grasp with AI. Because I was using AI to prototype this AI component, But what I was also doing was I was like, I know I'm going to use Nylas for stitching this together. I want to keep this slightly abstracted. But what I was able to do was actually come to Nylas and look at their docs. And here's the thing you can do with tools you're building with. You can go to the tool you're using and you can literally just come in here, find what you're looking for. And there's multiple ways of doing this. You can copy paste the entire fucking content of every single like page you're interested in, bring it, put it into one single doc or whatever, or like literally come on a page and just Control-Alt-C of what you're trying to use. Then you can go back to V0. You can like paste it in and be like, hey, building with this. And this is literally what I did. Building with this system. Please help me, yada, yada. Basically, please help me build out this form. So I kind of broke down what I wanted. I wanted this pre-qualification form. That's the first step. Then afterwards, once you fill out the pre-qualification form, I want to be able to select the date. Then I want to be able to select the time slot. And in order to know what the availability of the time slot is, Nylas exposes an API. So I got that. But what I did, which was really interesting, was I was able to, and thankfully Nylas have this, they have an Ask AI bot on their website. And nowadays, most of these developer tools have these available. And you should use these to basically talk to them. So I had one AI building my UI component. And then I had another AI hosted by Nylas where I could ask questions and tell them, this is what I'm building. Please tell me if you have existing APIs that can basically give me what I need to get my job done, which is basically it. And if you don't have that, what you can do is you can just come in and copy paste all the docs for every page you need, put it into ChatGPT, talk to it, and be like, here, based on these docs, here is what I want. The leverage here is that like Nylas provided us out of the box, but like, literally, realistically, you could just copy all of this, put it into ChatGPT, talk to it, be like, here are the docs for what I'm trying to build. How do I do it? And here's my component I'm building in V0. This is what it does. Tell me and give me a guided implementation of like how I can implement these APIs and how I can like validate it on my UI and how I can stitch it all together. So you can go down that route, and then eventually what you do end up with something here. And as you can see, if I go back into the README, which was generated as I went through here, you can kind of get a summary of what I was going through. A comprehensive production-ready booking and scheduling component for Next.js applications with full TypeScript support, dynamic form fields, and flexible callback APIs. I think pretty sure I even mentioned Nylas here at some point. Yeah. So I gave it some example API implementations, such as like, here's like the Nylas API. Here's what we expect. Here's like the booking endpoint. Here's the styling we want. All this kind of information, all put in here. But like I didn't put it in this README file. I put it in here through chat. So like if you went through my chat, you'd see it all. But in the end, I ended up with this component, and that's great. And I could just iterate here without even going into my code base. I could literally iterate in the cloud, prototype what I kind of want to build, be like, this is the UX flow I want. And the best part about this is you could actually share this publicly and show to someone like, hey, are you interested in this? But even better, once I have it ready, I actually get a command that I can take to my code base and inject it into my code base. And then I can use this component that I just built and leverage something like Cloud Code or Cursor and like help shift it to like my API routes that I might have built. So in my case, I built some wrappers around Nylas in my application that basically let me do this. But the whole concept is, realistically, I'm doing a lot of time going in between, like jumping between docs. I'm just jumping between docs, getting the data I need, finding out how it fits my problem and my use case. And I'm just like talking between these AIs until I get a plan. I haven't even started building it. And once I have that, I can go into something like Cursor, ship it all in and get it together and stitch it. And that's literally my approach to how I built this in less than 48 hours. It was just like all this jumping back and forth. It's kind of fucking bonkers how fast you can move, but I just wanted to share that like, hey, all you have to do is just think through existing systems and existing tools that exist. And then you just need to think through, how can I stitch these together to get the product I want built in the most efficient way possible, spending the least resources. And in my case, the resources I spent was like $25 a month for a Clerk Pro account. To be honest, I don't even need that. I could run with the free one. Same with Supabase, could run with a free one. Nylas, fair enough, it's got like a cost of $1 per user. But realistically, once you get those users on, you're able to charge a SaaS fee, you're able to recover those costs. But the fact that you can like reduce your development time from having to worry about authentication, from having to worry about like database support and like row level security and all this shit, and then being able to just like leverage something that handles all the calendar syncing for you, and all you have to do is integrate it, you can like literally get AI to help stitch it all together because you have all these APIs. And then you put it in a tool, you put it in a framework like Next.js, or maybe even just try to build this true lovable, and you'll be able to get yourself to the point where you have a system that can now work. Now, obviously, this isn't necessarily production ready. And obviously there's bugs that I have to go through, but it's a really fucking well working prototype that can clearly create a form. Like a user can publicly access it, enter their details, book, and land on the calendar. And that's what we want to show. And the best part is all that data is also captured as soon as they book. So like if I come to my leads table, which I've added, you'll see, well, should see, hopefully. Yeah, you'll see that the lead has been created and they're scheduled, and I can click in and I can see, yeah, they're booked for 9 a.m. and I can click in to that booking confirmation. If I go back, they have a score. Now I lead scored. Now I'm still working on this, working in some like AI lead scoring based on the information they entered. Now it was very low information entered, to be honest. It was like, what is your budget? Which I think was like less than 10K. So realistically, like that is like a low budget for building a mobile app. But actually it's not, because in this day and age, using AI, like I just did to build this, you can go pretty fucking far. And like, again, this whole functionality built in less than 48 hours. It's pretty fucking crazy. I just want to reiterate, there's so many of these tools that you can use and you can jump into without having to like spend the time building it from scratch. And you really need to take that mentality, because it's a combination mentality of knowing, all right, AI, sure enough, you can vibe code your way to whatever, but don't just vibe code, think architecturally, think system-wise. What existing tools exist that can help me get it together, and how can I piece them together like a jigsaw puzzle that's going to basically help me get to where I need to go. It's more or less how it is. That's it. That's what I wanted to show. And yeah, hopefully you found that interesting. And yeah, that's basically how I cloned my version of Calendly in less than 48 hours.